Hi guys, welcome to another video. This is a collaboration with Clark Danger, and today we will be reviewing Thinking Fast and Slow. This one here. Clark's a really cool guy. I came across him by searching for travel videos. Turns out he does a bunch of cool travel, self-development, and even book summary videos. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see the regular book summaries that I do, head over to Clark's channel. That's Clark Danger. I'll leave a description in below. And yeah, enjoy.
Can you trust your intuition? What are the cognitive biases that control our everyday thought process and our life? We're discovering those in this week's phenomenal book review, Thinking Fast and Slow. 1% Better Community. How you doing? My name's Clark. I also run a YouTube channel centered around the personal growth, self-development, big ideas kind of topics, things that can make our lives better, happier, and inspired. I love what you have here on 1% Better. I love the videos. I've learned a lot from them, so I'm excited to join in and hopefully give my take on this book, Thinking Fast and Slow. These books are kind of daunting. This thing's no light read that you can take to a beach on a Sunday and crack open. I mean, it's 400 pages of dense, sometimes scientific literature, and it's a lot to get through. So that's why, we take the best 10 ideas, and instead of 400 pages, we're trying to condense them down into 10 best points that we can take action on and improve our lives on. One more thing before we get going, be sure in this video, you're listening for 3 things. 1, your best idea, your biggest takeaway. What did you learn? 2, something you would like to add, something we forgot to put in this video. Or 3, something you disagree with. Go ahead and post that in the comments down below. I'll also be giving away 3 copies of my ultimate guide to keeping a journal course. Everything you need to know from start to finish on how to start, keep, and master journaling. One of the #1 things you can do to change your life. All you have to do to enter that is leave a comment. It'll be run through a random comment generator, and in a week or so, I'll let you know if you won. All right, now's the good stuff. I'm really excited to share with you the best 10 ideas from Daniel Kahnerman's Thinking Fast and Slow. Big idea #1. This is the breakdown of our 2 systems. Daniel Kahneman says that our brain is on an on or off switch pretty much. We have 2 systems that control our entire thinking, which controls our lives. The first system, this is your automatic system. This is your fast system. Some people call this your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight. This thing has been wired into us. Our brains, 2-million-year-old brains, are designed to keep us alive and make us survive. And so sometimes they're not always rational as we would like to think they are. This is your fight or flight mechanism. It's hardwired into us. It's a part of nature. And it's great. It's what's kept us alive for so long. It's made us, in the savannah, run away from lions or hearing things in the bushes, and we can grab our stuff and run away really quick. But the downside is, despite being on top of the food chain now, we're essentially the only predator that we have to worry about, is that it's hardwired into us, and it's not always good for the deeper kind of thinking. That if we're constantly going from this hyper-aware, sympathetic dominance, fast thinking system, we skip the thing that's really caused humans to flourish in the last couple centuries. And that is our slow system. The slow system, Daniel Kahneman says, is our slower, deliberate, more logical, rational thinking. And he says that an awesome point in the book on this system is that we have to consciously use this system. Why? Because we're inherently lazy. We inherently want to go to that fast system because it takes less energy. Your brain takes 20% of all your energy. So to constantly go there is taxing on the brain. So videos like this, where you're actually engaging that slower system, you right here are pushing past that fast system right now. So ultimately, if we want to source our decisions from the truest, most rational, highest forms of ourselves, we got to tap into this second system. And in the next part, we're going to go over some of the cognitive biases that Daniel Kahneman says hijack our first system. And if we can recognize these, then we are able to say, okay, I'm being biased right now. I can eliminate this and tap more into that second system, ultimately being more rational, being more present, and having more control over my life. Big idea number 2, Availability. One fallacy we fall into is that the more available information is, the more we think it is likely to happen. When in reality, sometimes information is disproportionately common or disproportionately uncommon. For example, when was the last time you turned on the news? We can all think of a story about someone getting murdered, either on the news, either in a book, in a movie. They got a gun, they murder someone. And God forbid we actually do know someone who got murdered. But the science of availability says that just because that's talked about and we can recall it off the top of our head doesn't actually add up. And when you look at the statistics, homicide in the US has gone down in the last 51 years alone, and 150 to 1,000 chance of getting murdered. In fact, homicide in the US is not even in the leading top 10 causes of death. But the science of availability right there, that just because we see it everywhere in movies and news and stories and articles, and just because it makes for great headlines, doesn't exactly mean it's happening left and right as common as we think it is. Point number 3, this is the peak and end rule. We don't remember the entire experience. You can't actually remember your entire vacation. You can't remember your entire birthday. You can't remember your entire 5 years of relationships in real time, right? That's impossible. So how do our brains categorize this? How do we store this information? We have a 3-part series, and he goes over this in the book, that you remember the beginning, the end, and the peak experience in between. So for example, vacation, let's just say. You can recall how it started. You're getting on the plane, you have all these memories. You can recall how it ended. And then you also can recall the peaks and the valleys. So a time that's really, really fun or a time that's not so fun. So a little story for you on this. I worked on a farm in Hawaii when I was 18, just in college, and I went with 2 of my buddies. We went woofing. We went and stayed on a farm, and it was pretty much almost next to slave labor, like 0 pay, just back-breaking landscaping. But at the end of the day, you don't really care because it's gorgeous and you're in Hawaii. Can't really complain, right? But needless to say, it was harder than we thought. It wasn't exactly the beach vacation and pina coladas all day. I mean, this was real farming. So then 2 years go by, senior year of college, I'm saying, man, I'm really antsy. I know, why don't I go work on a farm again? And I remembered all these great experiences of the sun, of Hawaii, of the adventure, of flying there, of coming back and feeling so satisfied. And so I was really excited, and I went and worked on a farm by myself for a second time. And I got there, and like week 1, I remember, oh yeah, farming is tough work. I had forgotten all about the harder times, and I just remembered the peaks, the great experiences of being in the sun, of being in Hawaii, of being in nature, and it's beautiful. And so I think that's an example of how our brains look back on events that have happened. We categorize them in that 3-part series, in that peak experiences, and we can get in danger of trying to recreate those, when in reality we're missing the information, and it's not always as fun as we once remembered. I mean, you can have a time, I'm sure you can think of where you thought something was so great, and maybe you tried to recreate that peak experience, and then you get there and you're like, is this all there is? This isn't as good as I remembered it. Maybe a restaurant you went to that you had the best meal of your life, and then you order it again and it loses its pizzazz. Or maybe even a relationship, you look back on all the good times, and then you go on a date with them again or something, and you remember immediately why you broke up. Think back on an experience in college, that those were the good old days. But in reality, when you're back there, you forget about how you were in debt, starving, and freaked out about what you were going to do in the future. So our fast system likes to snapshot and categorize our experiences into these bite-sized chunks. But our slow system has to take over if we're thinking, if we're regretting, if we're doing something, and try to remember the entire experience. We can't suck our happiness away today for our misconstrued and incomplete version of what we think happened yesterday. Let's go over the endowment effect. Daniel Kahnerman goes over the fact that we think something is worth more because it's ours. Another story, I was trying to sell my Buick. My 1999 Buick was my first car. Got it for like $3,000. Had it for 8-10 years. I was trying to sell it for like $3,000. You go on Blue Book and you say, oh yeah, my car's in excellent condition. We're so much more biased when we're trying to sell something. But then when we're in the exact same opposite position like I was looking for cars on Craigslist, and I'm looking and I'm blue booking it, and I'm finding all the flaws there. I'm finding, it's probably good condition, and you're messaging them back and forth trying to get the price down. In other words, when you're a seller, you want to get the most value for something. And when you're a buyer, you're trying to get it for the cheapest cost. That's the endowment effect right there. So the application of this one is, it's why it's hard to be objective on ourselves. It's why sometimes we can't really see our own flaws and see what we need to work on. So a great way to do that is to find someone, find a close friend, find a coach, find a mentor, find a family member who is able to really sit down with you. And if you ask them, what do I need to work on? They'll give you an honest answer. Point number 5, talk about framing. This is the bias that how something is framed determines our choices more than we'd like to think. An example he gives in the book is that on the form, when you go to the DMV and you get your license, you have to check a box that says opt out of being an organ donor. Now notice something. They don't ask you, do you want to be an organ donor? They assume that you want to be an organ donor unless you have to opt out. Comparing those two forms side by side, they got more organ donors when people had to put an X and opt out of the organ donating, because that framed it as in everyone's doing it. And if you opt out, well, do you not want to give your organs? Do you not want to contribute? You're far more likely to just leave it blank. Number 6, loss aversion. One of my favorite ones in this book is the fact that we will work much harder not to lose something than we will to gain something. In the book, Daniel Kahnerman goes over, this is why golfers are more likely to putt for par and stay away from a bogey, which is where you go one over, than to go for a birdie, which is one under par. Because they don't want the risk, even though there's some potential benefit there that they could get it in one shot early. They don't want that risk of going over because they know what that'll do to their score. So they play it safe and they're more likely to go for par. What the loss aversion bias is getting at is this is why change is hard. This is why making a move it sucks sometimes. We can be in jobs that don't fulfill us, we don't feel satisfied by. We can be in relationships that don't fulfill us, that we don't feel satisfied by. We can have certain aspects of our life we're just not happy with because we work harder not to lose something than we will to gain something. So by default, it's easier to just stay there and get complacent in our life than it is to really risk things and move forward. You know, I hope I'm not coming off as preachy here, but this is one thing that I'm really passionate about, is that we need to stop settling and start living. And that if that's what we want our lives to be, if we want to maximize what we're here to do on this earth, everything, we got to risk it. We got to go in on things. And it doesn't mean getting rash and putting it all on black and hoping you double it. It just means we got to take some chances. So finding some ways to kind of break past our loss aversion bias is going to be how we get some significant growth. If we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got. And that's something I said over and over to myself, and how I continue to push myself and how I want to push myself is to keep striving for things and staying in that tension zone of pushing towards goals and pushing towards future plans and expanding. Next bias, this is anchoring. Anchoring similar to framing, except you start at a certain number and people are much more likely to guess around whatever number that is. This is why it's always important to ask when we're comparing things. Well, compared to what? So in the United States, where I'm from, here, doing this video, everyone's talking about the 99%, right? That the 99% of the population controls 1% of the wealth. And how unfair is that in America, that 1%, they control 99% of the wealth? Well, that's a good example of anchoring right there, because I'm in no way in the 99%. But if we look globally, do you know what the global 99% is? If you take everyone and put them in a pot, 75% of the population in this world is living on less than $2.50 a day. The global salary between $32,000 and $34,000. So if you make that, you're in the top 1% globally. So compared to what? When we're talking about the 99% here in America, we're doing very well if we make above $34,000. Now, yes, everything's all relative at the end of the day, but anchoring, always ask ourselves, compared to what? Next one, sunk costs. A sunk cost is something that you've put so much time, so much money, so much whatever into, that instead of quitting because it's not working, you continue to throw money into that business that's failing. or you continue to invest in that person that's never going to change, or you continue to fill in the blank. The sunk costs are the reason I have $200 jeans that I've ripped in the back of my closet, but I haven't thrown them out. Why? Because they were $200. There's that fear that if we quit now, every single ounce of energy, time, money we put in, that's all wasted. So it's easier for us to justify putting more money in, putting more energy in, putting more time in, more of ourselves in, than it is to cut our losses. But what's that song? The truism, that you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. That sunk costs is part of the ways our fast system of our brain hijacks our optimism and makes us stay in things that aren't necessarily serving us. Point number 9, this is to slow down. So we know that those biases can hijack our fast system and have that fast system kind of control our life and our decision making. If we want to break past that intuitive survival kind of lifestyle and be in that constant wound up state, we got to slow down. And so 4 of the ways I came up with that have worked for me, and I have videos of this on my channel if you're curious, but let me just walk over 4 of those. The first one is mindfulness meditation, which I know you knew was probably coming. Did a stay at a monastery in Thailand, and even there, I was freaking out. My mind was bouncing all over the place. And it wasn't until we did the active meditation, the walking meditation, that I felt like I could really get into it. So finding what works for you there. Second way we can slow down, incorporate more of our slow system in our life, this is to avoid stimulants the first hour and last hour of your day. And by stimulants, I'm not talking about coffee here. I'm not talking about caffeine. I'm talking about email. I'm talking about social media. I'm talking about your phone. I'm talking about everything that's coming at you. That's going to put us in a very reactive state. And it's going to override our slow form of thinking. If we wake up first thing in the morning and we're checking our phone or we're checking Facebook, then we're kind of letting other people control where our attention's going, right? This isn't something you have to stress yourself out about, but just experiment. I would suggest experiment with the first hour of your day. So if you get up at 6, wait till 7 o'clock to, if you normally check email or Facebook or social media or whatever, wait to do that until 7. Maybe do some journaling, maybe do some meditating, maybe do breakfast, maybe take care of yourself first thing in the morning. And then last thing at night, if we're trying to wind down, if we're trying to slow down, avoiding that stimulation as well. Third point, this is take a full day off a week. Again, easier said than done. But one thing I've been really experimenting with is every Sunday, just completely unplugging from everything. Experiment with not doing any social media, any emails, any work, anything really, just giving yourself permission to slow down, wind down, and relax, at least for one full day a week. That's been a game changer for me and my stress levels and everything along those lines. The fourth one is to journal more. And we're going to dive into that in this next point number 10. All right, the last point, this is to invest in you. Invest in yourself. I truly believe that one of the best ways to invest in yourself, besides these kinds of videos that you're doing right now, which I thumbs up for, between reading these kinds of books, between being in a community like 1% Better or what we have over on my channel, is to journal, is to find a way to really sit down and journal. And this doesn't have to be something you force. This isn't something that, it's not a diary. It's not something that, we had back in the day where you'd write about what happened on a daily basis. I mean, that's fine if you like doing that. But the way we've set it up on our channel and our community, and I do myself for the last 7 years, is to use journaling as some tool with the emphasis on growth. Just like you would use a screwdriver to drive in screws and a hammer to pound in nails. Well, it doesn't make sense. It's all about the intention of the tool for the job. And so with the journal, if we have the intention that it's for our personal growth, it's for our discovery, it's for slowing down, thinking slow, it's for that deep reflective form, boom, right there, it changes the whole dynamic of what we're doing. And so that's why I think journaling is one of the best ways. I got videos on the channel over there about how to start, keep, master journaling. We have the course, mybestjournal.com, which you can go to and find out how you can journal more. But I'd start over there, watch a few videos, and if it resonates with you, give it a shot. So thank you for letting me be a part of this. I'm really honored. You know, I'm just a normal guy. I'm not trying to be anyone's guru. I'm not trying to preach at people. I just have a really big passion for personal growth and self-development. And so it's really humbling, and it's a huge honor to be able to share that and hopefully inspire some small change or some motivation for you throughout the day. That's the entire goal right there. So come over to the channel, say hey. Love to have you subscribe for more videos. If you want to email me, clark@clarkdanger.com. I have a 99% response rate. Be sure you check out Brandon's video, which will be linked up right here on the same book, Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. Love his perspective, and you will as well because you're subscribed. Until next time, stop settling, start living. See you later.